Do you hear that fuzzing noise in the background, JT?
Is that me?
No, it's me. Do you hear it though?
It's
Okay, good.
quiet if it is. Sometimes my computer, when it's doing something, is loud.
Sweet. Well, as long as no you don't hear it, we're good. Welcome to the Ancient Angels podcast, everybody. Um, we are going to be talking about something that we were supposed to talk about, what, 2 weeks ago, but we never we
It
never
would have
got
been
to it.
last week. We kind of this is should be part two of our little season. I don't even know what you want to call it.
Where we're at in the timeline. Little
Okay, gotcha.
that's what we'll call it. What has happened in the little season where we're at. Because the first episode was kind of like a prelude to this, and we
Hmm.
never even got to it. We never we just talked about, I think we talked about the catacombs.
We were setting some stuff up.
Yeah, we had to set stuff up because this is a very complicated topic. I feel like it's like you really got to know some stuff. So this is an advanced conversation. Most of you guys in the chat, you already kind of know this stuff probably to some degree, but for those that are new, if you are about to hear this for the first time, there's another video you should watch before you watch this one probably. But this is
We
going to be kind of crazy sounding to a lot of people.
we know that this audience is very intelligent and they've done their homework. So I don't think that anybody watching today will be lost.
Yeah, our people today won't be lost, but I'm just warning the newcomers. If you are coming to this video for the first time and you come across this video, there's a video before this that you should probably watch. I forget what I titled it, but something like Little Season something. I don't even know. Maybe, was it symbolism? Little Season symbolism, I think I named it.
Yeah.
Symbolism of the Little Season. I think that's what it was. Okay. So today though, it's going to be Little Season, basically what has happened and our theories of where we're at in today. Okay. And now again, this is just theories. Okay, guys. There's gonna be a lot of speculation again, a lot of me telling you what I think potentially happened, and JT sharing what he thinks potentially happened because we don't know. And anybody that comes to you and says, "Oh, it happened in 1600," blah, 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 blah. "Oh, this happened," okay, yeah, right. You weren't there. You have no clue. You have no clue. And to think or to assume that you have some clue of what actually happened, bro, like you don't even know what happened 100 years ago. like
Hmm.
it's very funny to think that we know or have any clear, concise perspective of what actually happened 1,000 years ago. That is, there's just, it's asinine to assume so much. So, yeah.
Right. Well, the one thing we've learned is we've got a lot more to learn.
Yeah,
The more
exactly.
you've the more you looked into this subject,
Mhm,
the more you realize it is
mhm.
complicated. It's simple in the way that the theory is that we are in the little season. The little season is not a theory. The little season is a biblical prophecy. It's either happening now or will happen or already happened. So the
Yep.
real question is where we're at. Are we
Mhm.
before the little season? Or are we in it? Or are we after it?
Is my sound low? My sound's low too. Again, my sound.
People saying your sound's low?
Let me see. Is my sound higher? I
I
don't
always
know.
see a Brian sound low. That's weird because back in the day, Brian would be like taking it to 11.
Yeah, my my
And then
sound
he
would
would
be just
scream and then it
ridiculous.
would go past 11.
Yeah, I got this little volt thing to try to regulate me, um, so that way I'm not as loud. But maybe I need to like. I wonder
Somebody
if there's
says,
like audio settings.
no, y'all sounds good. Okay, sound fine.
All right. Well, anyways, I'll just try to talk into the microphone more. Maybe it'll help. I don't know. Um, so let's see. Yes, a little low, but all right, whatever. Um, so yeah, today we are going to be talking about Revelation 20. This is the little season. Now we're going to explain the little season and where we are and what events have happened that have led to this event and how we've gotten here and what exactly we are, where exactly we're at. Okay. So there's a lot of, again, this is mostly speculation, guys. This is, don't take this video and be like, this is fact. I want you guys to, as the team of researchers, little season researchers that we all are, um, I want you guys to like try to figure out these things as well and dig into stuff. Okay, which by the way, I met a guy yesterday who is from the Order of the Knights of something
Malta,
order. And it wasn't the Knights of Malta. It was the Knights. It was like a
Columbus.
nope. Gosh, I wish I would have written it down. I don't know. He had a little pin on his chest, on his
Oh, I bet he did. He bet he
jacket.
had a ring too.
Yeah, probably. And I was like, so what is the Knights of whatever? And oh, it's like they're like Catholic, but we're Catholic order. It's like the Knights of Templar. You've heard of the Knights Templar? And I'm like, yeah, I've heard of the Knights Templar. He goes, well, that's like not necessarily a good thing, but we're like kind of like that, and we're not directly part of the Catholic Church. We're actually a subset of this that happen to be Catholic, but the Catholic Church has recognized us as well. And I'm like,
You say,
he's like,
so you worship the devil or don't?
yeah, I know. Yeah, basically, I was confused a little bit. And so he was just like telling me, he was like, yeah, and we do a lot of charity work and all this blah, 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 blah. And I was like, interesting. I was like, really interesting. And I was like, like, he's like, we have 4 degrees in our organization. And I was like, degrees? I was like, and he's like, yeah. And I'm like, that's like Freemason thing, right? And he was like, uh, no, it's not Freemason. I'm like, yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. I'm like, why do you think they use the word degree? I was like, degree means location, like longitude, degrees, this, latitude, this, right? So, like, degree means location because of the square and compass. The compass is run off of degrees. And so I was like, so anything that says it's a degree, it started with a Masonic root. So if you have an organization that says we have degrees, that's because it's a Masonic, like originally formed Masonic group organization. Just like all the colleges, they give you degrees. Okay, the degree
Mm.
is a Masonic because colleges were created by the the friggin' Freemasons. So like, and they have roots in all of it. That's why they give out degrees. And it's like that's because it's the compass, the square and compass. And so I explained that to him, and he's like, huh? And I was like, when did your organization start? He goes, oh, in the 1890. And I'm like, really? I'm like,
Of course.
of course. Of course. Your organization started in 1890. Like the Knights of whatever in 18. Somebody could Google that one. Knights of something that started in the 1890s or the 1800 Knights of the Rosy Cross. No,
Somebody
wasn't
says,
that?
"Oh, my oven is based on degrees."
Yeah, your oven's based on degrees.
Nope, your oven is suspect. Don't trust it.
Yeah, no, so it's interesting to see some of these connections, uh-oh, the oven, watch out. No, the what I'm referring to is like, like organizations when they use degrees. That's typically what it's about. Anyways, so there's a lot of connection to that. And then the Knights of Malta? No, I don't think it was the Knights of Malta. But
I
I
think
wonder
the
when the
Knights of
Knights of Malta
Malta
started.
is like a really powerful group, like one of the most powerful Knights of Malta.
Yeah, Knights of Malta started. Let's see when the Knights of Malta were started. Okay,
Probably
ready?
older. I'm guessing older.
Yeah, they're way older supposedly, right? Okay, around 1048 they say.
Yeah,
So
there you
they're
go. That's
they're
yeah,
one of
good
the
bit.
OGs.
Hmm.
They're one of the OGs. But there was a
Yeah, there's the Knights of the Rosy Cross. That's the Rosicrucians.
started in 1890. Let's see. Knights of Reciprocity. What is that? 1869. The Knights of Reciprocity. That must
Is
be it.
is that it?
That's it. The Knights of Reciprocity.
What does that what does that mean exactly?
I don't even know. I have no clue. What is reciprocity?
Does that mean you got the receipts?
I get it. Yeah, right. But yeah, this is funny because it was really interesting. Oh my gosh, dude, the Knights of dude, their symbolism is totally like
Is
look,
reciprocity saying you receive something? Oh
look at
yeah.
their symbolism. Like it's like a pentagram.
Yeah, well,
Like
it's kind of got the
it's got
what is it
it's got
the
a pyramid in the middle with like a map over it.
yeah, it's got a hexagon, right? Or is that a no? That's a pentagon. It's got a pentagon in
Yeah.
there.
The Supreme Lodge Knights of Reciprocity. I don't know what that is.
Okay, so the reciprocity would probably mean they received something. right?
The
It's like
Knights of
the
Columbus.
reception of knowledge.
I don't know. Foundation, our fraternal organization, was 1882. The Knights of Columbus, also 1800s, founded, apparently. Dude, there's a lot of things found.
Oh, it's like, I mean, that's like we are talking about all the kind of sects of Christianity that were developed in the 1800s based on some kind of a
Mhm.
false eschatology that Christ was going to return during that, in a few years or something.
Bro, listen to this. The Knights of Labor started in 1990. A different organization
1990.
started, yeah, or 1890, sorry. Or a different organization started in the 1890. However, the Knights of Labor was founded in 1869 by the Knights of Reciprocity, was started in 1890 in Grand City, Kansas. There's like, there's a lot of there, dude. Okay, so anyways,
I wonder if it has something to do with them finding a building and then they decide to host a secret society club in it.
probably something like that. I would imagine. The
Mm-hmm.
dude was telling me we used to have our meetings in the lodges at the Freemason at like the Elks Lodge, and I was like, really? I was like, really? You used to have it at the Elks Lodge, and you don't think you're a Freemason organization?
Well,
I'm
it's
like,
kind of funny. It's like, so I was just in kind of the western part of Virginia for Thanksgiving with the wife's family,
mm-mm.
and somebody connected with them was like high up in the Shriners, and so the Shriners are free. They're like a branch of Freemasonry. So like all Shriners are Freemasons, but not all Freemasons are Shriners. I wonder if that's similar to these clubs where you are a Freemason, but this is a just a branch of the Masons.
He didn't think he was Masonically connected.
Well, I guess he would know.
He
I
was
mean,
a
if
cool
he's if
dude. He
he,
seemed cool.
yeah, if he would know because I want to say that you can't join the Shriners unless you already are a Freemason.
Yeah. So I don't know. He didn't seem to be connected. I just told him about like Lucifer and the Statue of Liberty was satanic, and he kind of knew some of it. And I was like, oh, this is
I bet he
interesting.
does. But he knows
he kind of
more than he
he
told
kind
you.
of knew some of it. I was like, this is random dude that I met randomly like walking down the street. And so anyways, it was very interesting. The Elks Lodge is a Freemason connected lodge, by the way. There's also another big organization called it's like the Elks Lodge. It's the the lodge, the other people that have the lodge. What are they called? They're the magicians. What are they called? I'm trying to think of their names.
Um, I actually couldn't help but think about like Arrested Development in the was like Job was in the League of Magicians. Do you ever watch that show?
Uh-uh.
Oh gosh, that show was so funny. But yeah,
No, I haven't.
Job was a magician in that show. They used
Oh,
to play the
really?
Final Countdown by Europe when he came out. This thing.
That's funny. Yeah, no, there's another the Druids. That's it. The Druids.
They're in
Do
a
you know about the
lodge too.
Druids?
Well, yeah, somebody said Moose Lodge. It makes me think of was it the Flintstones that they were in the
Yeah.
Moose Lodge, right?
They were. I think there was something like connected there.
Mm-hmm.
Just to give you a little heads up that they were in control of something. That they put him in the Moose Lodge or whatever. Yeah, the Shriners, and you've got the all these secret organizations. Okay, so I don't know why we're talking about all this that we're supposed to be
We're
talking
gonna get
about.
to the little season or
Let's
not?
talk about little season stuff. Anyways, okay, so yeah, let's read where we're at, and then we'll just kind of go over it, and I'll tell you my theories as where we're at in timeline and what exactly happened. Okay, so the theory of the little season is Revelation 20. All right, that we're in Revelation 20. And by the way, I mentioned the Freemason stuff, I guess, partially because they're the ones that have made up our history books and told us a lot about these things that we believe. They're the ones that wrote this. Okay, that's why we're talking about them kind of. They're the ones that told you this false narrative of history that we believe today, that the Freemasons, because they founded a bunch of buildings and then they became speculative Freemasons, which means they no longer find buildings. They just talk about stuff now. Okay, and that happened. I think was that in the 1800s when they switched to speculative Freemasonry
I mean,
as well.
yeah. Again, the timeline is really confusing. Like that they went from taking credit for all the grandest buildings all around the world to
Yeah.
one day saying, "Oh well, we don't actually do that kind of masonry. Like, we actually don't build anything."
We just keep secrets.
Right. So
Yeah.
how many real Freemasons today are both in the club but also able to have are actual master builders?
That is a good question. Oh, somebody made a video. Hub dude. Okay, we'll check it out. We'll check out your video. That you made for us. Thanks, man. So yeah, they're that's what they were all sort of builders, and that's their square and compass stuff. And then they became speculative, meaning they don't actually build buildings, they talk about secrets. Okay, they switched from actual builders to these people that just did stuff. Now it's funny that they call them Freemasons because it's almost like they built free buildings or they founded free buildings. Maybe they found buildings that were already there. And that's why they called them Freemasons, because it was Mason work that was free. It like didn't have any connection to it. Have you seen the one where of what's his name posted the Empire State Building in the middle of the ghetto? Have you seen that one?
No.
The photo of the Empire State Building?
I mean, the Empire
Um,
State Building. I remember when I was first looking at the Art Deco kind of architecture when I was first going on TikTok and I was going down that rabbit hole. As somebody in construction, the timeline of them building the Empire State Building in 13 months is absolutely ridiculous. I mean, that's
yes.
just it's hard to it really is hard to imagine just based on the logistics, because thinking like building all through the winter and stuff, like there was no time where they weren't building some of it. My kitty cat's here.
Dude, this is very fascinating.
Hey.
Oh, the kitty cat's jumping in. Look at this. This is the Empire State Building in the middle of the ghetto, bro. Like just you
That
barely
picture is
see
so
it.
fake. It's like, what is there no other buildings around that area?
That's how it was supposedly.
Isn't the Empire State Building, isn't that called, is that in downtown or is that midtown?
That's Empire State Building from New Jersey in 1930. So if you look at the 1930, there's one building next to it. This little tiny building
That is such garbage. Yeah,
in the
that
middle of
can't
like
even
this
be, that can't
ghetto.
be accurate to the narrative, because the Empire State Building was, I want to say, built in like right around 1930. New York
Yeah.
City would have had lots of buildings around it.
Well, that was from a faraway view, so it was like just seeing it.
That thing was completely vanilla skied out, where they had chroma keyed out everything in the background.
It does seem unusual to say the least. This is really interesting seeing the old photo of what looks to be like
It's bad cat. Stop.
this is like the cat wants to bite the thing, the microphone.
Get down.
This is what looks to be like the Colosseum, and there's some like old structural buildings, and like this is, it just seeing this.
Is
stuff
that the
crazy.
demo of one of the World Fairs or something?
I think so. I think it was the ruins of the city hall. No, the observatory in San Francisco after the Great Fire and the earthquake.
Brian, did you see my video that I made from the other day when I was on Thanksgiving?
Maybe. Which one was it? Tell me.
It was about that library in Winchester, Virginia.
Oh wait, maybe I didn't see it.
You want me to share it? You'll enjoy that if we're talking about buildings.
Okay, sure, we can do it.
Yeah, you'll like this. This is ridiculous, bro. Let me see, I got this queued up.
You are way louder than Brian. They're saying again. How am I Let me just turn you down, maybe.
Okay, I'm gonna share this.
I'll turn you down so that way I'm not as.
I'm in here in historic Winchester, Virginia, front of an amazing old world building. Check that out. We're
Wow.
told this is a library that was built in 1908. And this thing is epic.
A library.
Yeah, supposedly the story is this is the John Hanley Library. And John Hanley was a judge from Pennsylvania. And he liked Winchester so much, he donated $250,000 in his will because he liked the Scotch-Irish charm of this town, and they built him a monument that's a Greco-Roman temple.
Wow.
Look at that.
Dude, that is like so much.
Just look at that.
That is so much work. That's just crazy.
So this guy only visited this place a few times. And this is what $250,000 got you back in the early 1900s.
Hmm. Wow.
Do you guys believe this story? Come on. You've got to be kidding me.
That's
Yes,
pretty.
Yeah, what do you think about that building? So that the story goes is this guy, John Hanley, was from Pennsylvania, and he only visited Winchester a couple times. And then he died in 1893, and in his will, he left that town $250,000. And the story was that he liked the Scotch-Irish charm of the town. So they took his $250,000, and they built a Greco-Roman temple 15 years after he died.
Wow.
That's what they came up with, that building. And yeah, there's a lot of really cool buildings there, but that one is just, on a different level. And gosh, I'm kicking myself because they actually had a John Hanley High School, and I talked about this on one of my my live streams. I was talking about crazy architecture. So Winchester, Virginia is not very big. And check this out, Brian.
Okay.
This is the high school in that town.
Wow. That's a very elaborate structure for a high school.
Isn't that crazy, bro?
Sounds like it was probably, I bet that building was founded.
Yeah, I mean that's not typically what you would build for teenagers, but
no.
But that's the narrative, and I think that's the narrative where these Freemasons are they're making stuff up. They're making fun of us, I think.
Yeah, they seem to be definitely making fun of us in some capacity. All right. Well, it was definitely founded.
Okay, so now they're saying I'm too low.
Yeah, I fixed it now.
Okay.
I think it should be good.
We go. The cat's annoying.
Okay. Well, anyways.
So should we get to the little season now?
Let's get to the little season, guys. So there's a lot of questionable stuff going on. Let's read where we're at, okay? So Revelation 20 in the little season, it says, the 1,000 years. Then I saw an angel coming down from heaven, holding in his hand the key to the bottomless pit and a great chain. And he seized the dragon, that ancient serpent who is the devil and Satan, and he bound him for 1,000 years. My theory, the 1,000 years was what we call the Dark Ages, okay? This is my theory. The Dark Ages lasted for about 1,000 years, okay? And it says, and he threw him into a pit and shut it and sealed it over him so that he might not deceive the nations any longer until the 1,000 years was ended. After that, he must be released for a little while. That's where we're at. We're in the little while. Cat really likes the microphone.
Cat's trying to steal the show over here.
And so we're in that 1,000 years over. I believe we are past the 1,000 years. Now, there's a lot of people that speculate that we're not past 1,000 years, that 1,000 we're in it, and there's people that think it's coming still. There's people that think it's a proverbial or a metaphysical 1,000-year reign, or they think there's all kind of theories. I think it was kind of physical. I think it was kind of actual, and there's a reason why I think it was actual, because we've got evidence of all these old world stuff coming out of the old world stuff, where these structures are the most elaborate structures we've ever seen. The most beautiful structures, the most decorative and amazing structures, which, by the way, the buildings that we just saw, just so you guys know, those buildings were built with horse and buggy, okay? Horse and buggy built those structures. No power tools, no saws, just chisels and horse and buggy, okay? Hand chiseled tools. Do you understand? Like
Hmm.
that seems pretty silly to me, and it's like pretty darn perfect, some of the stuff.
Well,
And those
the real issue is not just, let's just say there was one building like that.
yeah.
Let's just say those buildings were rare. Then you could say, I do give men a lot of credit when they put their minds
Mhm.
to it, and you have great craftsmen even today. But the real issue would be if somebody could use like ChatGPT or some kind of AI to try to figure out how many buildings were built between, like, let's just say in America between like 1870 and like maybe 1910, somewhere in that range. How
Yeah.
many buildings were being built that resemble
Amazing buildings.
those kind of Greco-Roman buildings, and then try to like work out all the logistics of how many men it would take, and that would be really interesting because I think that's when you would really realize that the math does not math at all.
And how many skilled people are building that and how fast they're building it. Like they're building them, they're going up in months, some of them, some of these buildings.
Right. Well, that's the thing. So we always talk
Mm-hmm.
about San Francisco
Mm-hmm.
because that's one of the best examples. It's got probably one of the shortest timelines at any city kind of in America. And when you see the pictures from 1870, the very famous panoramic shot of it,
With no one in it.
for one, yeah, there's not one soul you can see visible. There's not one horse or cart just out in the street or anything. There's nothing. There's no animals. There is nothing there. But there is a full city with Gothic cathedrals, Greco Roman architecture, lots of brick, tons of masonry. There's not one building being built then. So then you're thinking, like, so the timeline of San Francisco is basically about from 1849 to, so like in 20 years, the whole city is fully built,
Mm-hmm.
100% of it. That is, that seems,
Insane.
that seems unlikely because I said, yeah, 1848, before the 49er gold rush, there was only 1,000 people that lived in San Francisco. 1,000.
That's insane.
It's insane to believe that. But I mean, and that's again, that's just one. That's one city. And now when you say, again, that's why I said if you took a AI and you stack the other cities on top of that one, to saying, not only did they do this in San Francisco, they did it in Seattle, they did it in Portland, they did it in Salt Lake City, they did it in all these Western cities, and yet all the stories are very similar. Where as soon as you see pictures, it's full city.
Mm-hmm.
And then somebody, so somebody in my comments was saying that John Henley Library, oh, there's construction pictures. No, there's not. There's like one picture with like a scaffolding around it. When you think, like you really think about it, like that, if you're like, did they have not newspapers back in those days? Like the newspaper guys aren't taking pictures of like this brand new, like completely modern high tech city. They're not documenting every bit of it. Like what else are they doing?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like you would have massive volumes of books with pictures of all like the phases of like very historic famous cities like San Francisco and Seattle. And
Yeah.
yet you get like one or two one-offs, and then again all the skies are all whited out and stuff. Dumb.
Yeah. The it's very, very sus. So to say the least, that there is some questionable things being built during that time, and then during the Dark Ages as well. So like the Dark Ages has a whole lot of structures, and a lot of these structures don't have bathrooms. Like a lot of them don't have bathrooms in the buildings, in the structures, and they're some of the most elaborately built, most ornately designed things built with horse and buggy during the Dark Ages, during a time where it was chaotic. Okay, there was like no peace. All right, the Wild West was going on. And when we see early video footage of things, like the earliest footage you find, when you find early footage, it's like the people are all wearing top hats. They're all very clean. The streets are nice. Things are like better looking. And it's almost like you see this early footage. There's a page I follow. I forget the name of it right now. But you see the early footage. Excuse me. And you see it and you're just like, whoa. You're like, what world is this that we have come from? Because why do these people like look nice, dress nice, have nice things? It's like clean looking, and you see these early footage things and everything's nice looking. And then it's like we look around the world today and there's ghettos everywhere. There's a ghetto down the street from pretty much everybody. right now in America. Like you could probably every neighborhood, there's a spot where you just don't go in your town. There's like it's like everywhere it persists. It's like it wasn't like that so long ago. They've given you the illusion that there was something like that going on, but there's no photos, there's no real stories of a lot of these things. It's like these one-off stories that get popularized like Little Orphan Annie and like Oliver Twist, and they like try to
all the
like
orphan, like the author. I mean the
Mhm.
orphan mythologies and books are just filled. Like it's all through like it's one period
Yeah.
where it's just like it's so common the stories of orphans.
Yes. And you're like, what is all this orphan made up fictitious storytelling going on about? Like, why is there all of a sudden all this stuff about orphans like being exploded everywhere? And you're just like, this is so weird. Like, it's such an unusual thing because it's like, because before that time, orphans was not a thing, guys. There was no such thing as an orphan. If you had a child, it was another hand to help you on the farm. Okay, it was another slave to be used in your little army. Okay, that's like getting rid of your child was a child. Getting rid of a child was insane. It was insane because that was a guarantee that you will survive. Having children was a benefit to your life. It was not a detriment. It was a having a child was like guaranteed you're going to continue to live. Your family's going to continue to live. Your property's going to be continue to be owned and worked. So having a child before that was like there was no such thing as orphans. If you found a random kid, it was like, great, come and live with us. We'll help you. We'll put you to work. You can be a part of our family. Like the
But
idea of like people getting impregnated from the grape word, right? And then saying that happening to them, and then all of a sudden they have a child. It wasn't like they're sitting there. Should we kill it? Should we kill it? It was like, well, guess we'll have another kid at least on the farm. Like it wasn't like they were like attacking people. This cat really wants to be up in this
this
biz.
cat is really really uppity today.
Yes.
No, yeah,
So
what
yeah.
you're saying though, it's like that again, that's the striking thing about what we're told about the stories of the 1800s and the early 1900s is that we can't wrap our minds around it because even today, as callous as people are, they don't just give away their children, right? And like,
No,
let's just say you have some kind of a tragedy befall the parents of these children.
unless you're
Well,
on drugs.
well, I mean, let's just say something really bad happened to a parent. Well, then these people have families, right? And then they're not going to most people, and again, yeah, you're thinking back in those days, which they would have been more family oriented. It's not like you say, "Oh, well, I guess I could take care of my daughter's kid who passed away, or maybe we could just give it to the government."
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like they
Let's
didn't
put it
do
on a
that.
train.
Yeah, they wouldn't do it. Oh yeah, they'll be really good off in this wild west that
Yeah.
just exploded.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, it's fine. Yeah, let's just send them on a train out to this territory. It's not even a state,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? Where
And
they
to
got
Australia.
supposedly got all these like crazy barbaric Indians. They're taking people's scalps. Let's
Yeah.
just
We'll
put them
send.
on a train. Just send them out there. They'll work in a factory, or they'll pick some kind of produce.
Yeah.
What? No, like that's what I'm
Yes.
saying. Like that makes no sense, and it also makes no sense to us that at the very same time they are constructing buildings that are Greco-Roman temples and Gothic cathedrals. So
Mm-hmm.
not only can they not care for their own children, but they can also do these things that we find impressive still today.
Yeah.
So they're both backward and very advanced at the
Yeah.
same
It's
time.
very unusual. It doesn't make sense. So, them giving up their children, all this stuff disappearing, and then there's stories of children just popping up and showing up out of nowhere. So it's like this is really unusual, okay? And you got to think like people don't give up their children even today. This is the reason why like abortion is not a good thing, guys. It is human sacrifice ritual because under any other normal circumstance, protecting a child, having a child, like giving birth to a child, there under any circumstance of normal humanity would be a benefit to your existence. It would be good for you. It would be good no matter what. But our society is so backwards now. You literally think that like, oh, maybe it's a good idea to get rid of this child, to murder a child, this unborn baby. Like that is so backwards in reality of the way God created our planet that it's, but we see it as like it's not a thing. Like it's human sacrifice ritual. We see it as though it's like, oh, but guys, you were sacrificing a child for the safety of you to continue on being living a terrible or adulterous whatever kind of lifestyle you want to live. Like that's literally what you're doing. It's sacrificing children for your life's betterment. Okay, that is human sacrifice. That is the definition of it.
Right. Well, you can at least make.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't. Obviously, I'm completely against abortion. I think it's murder. But you could see like
Mm-hmm.
that would be more likely how you'd give up a child than for somebody to go through all the point to give
Mm-hmm.
birth to this kid and then just give it away afterwards. You know what I
That's
mean?
even
Saying like
more.
that seems way less likely too, because even today, that the mothers who end up having the kid, even though they didn't necessarily intend for it to have a child, it's very difficult to give them up.
Oh
So
yeah.
the idea again that the orphans, there's just
Mm-hmm.
masses. Like basically, if you kind of did the math based on our own population, it would be like millions of kids with no parents around today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That would be
And
crazy. Like that obviously would be crazy when there's lots of people who cannot have children and they would love to be able to take them in.
yeah.
Instead,
And
they're
that's
just
just
going on trains.
yep, they're going on trains and going out west and then going to Australia. Okay, guys, by the way, there was a boatload of orphans that got shipped to Australia along with a bunch of prostitutes and criminals, supposedly, according to the narrative. Just so you guys know.
Yeah.
Let's
Hmm.
send orphans to an island with prostitutes and criminals. That's how Australia was formed, which is just is such a joke when you realize like there's no freaking way this is real. This is the story that they made up. Like this is just insane.
It's
This
like
is
you know
so
what the
insane.
story of Australia is like probably a lot more like Mad Max than you realize.
Yeah.
I'm serious. I'm serious. The place is a
Hmm.
wasteland, and I think that so.
Hmm.
What is his name? I forgot the real bad guy's name. It's like something like Morton Joe or something like that.
I don't know.
Anyways, so he has all these women, and they're all about trying to produce children because
Mm.
the place had been destroyed. They live in a wasteland, so obviously the things that are precious to you, like that we take for granted, like water and food, and children, like those things they don't have. And I think that that's probably what they're showing you. They lived in this place and it's a wasteland, and then one day they found a city, and then they said we need to populate it. But that's
Mm.
probably the same story about the West Coast. Is that they needed effort
Mm.
to populate these cities that they found sometime in the 1800s.
That they founded.
Mm-hmm.
The so yeah. So this is what's going on, guys, with the where we're at. And I guess let's continue. It says in Revelation 24, okay? Then I saw the thrones, and I saw thrones, and seated on them were those whom the authority to judge was committed. And I saw the souls of those that had been beheaded for their testimony of Jesus and for the word of God. Okay, and those who had not worshipped the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their forehead or their hand. Okay, so I saw the souls of those that had been beheaded for their testimony. That means like eyewitness experience of Jesus, and for the word of God. So those people, you think they're just sitting around still? The people that saw witness Jesus 2,000 years later, they're just sitting around waiting, just waiting to give their testimony. Or do you think it was pertaining to the moment of Jesus and all the Christians that were killed, massively murdered right thereafter? I think it was those. I think it was having to do with Nero Caesar, who was beheading. And this is where we get the term Roman candle, lighting Christians up on fire, okay, and covering them in wax and then lighting them on fire on a stick. Like this is what I think this is referring to. And it says that, and I saw the thrones, and seated on them were those who had been had the authority to judge was committed. And I also saw the souls of those that had been beheaded for their testimony of Jesus and for the word of God, and those who had not worshipped the beast or its image. Now the beast or its image, and had not received its mark on their hand or their forehead. That right there is Nero Caesar. And it's pretty clear that it's Nero Caesar. He was doing the word 666 is the beast. And it says its calculated name comes out to being like in 616, it says it in old Bibles for those that don't know. 616 is the older Latin translation, which again is gematria calculation for Nero Caesar. It's 666 in Greek, it's 616 in Latin in old Bibles. So we know that it's not 666, the magic number, which is why they put 666 on everything, guys. They put it on everything all
Wait,
around,
so
all over the place.
in a Bible that's Latin, it's 616, and in the Greek,
Yes.
it's 666.
Yes.
Well, that's interesting. It's
Mm-hmm.
almost like that whoever translated it knew it was Nero, and they translated it to a different number.
Yeah, probably. I
You
wonder
know what
on
I'm saying?
purpose.
Like, because that makes
Yeah.
sense. That like they already knew who the beast was, and they
Yeah.
translated it backwards to the number
Mm-hmm.
that calculated to his name, and that's why it's
Yep.
not the same.
Exactly. And it's funny because, well, Nero Caesar in Latin spells out, so it calculates the 616, and Nero Caesar in Greek calculates the 666. So it's like they could have changed the order of the letters or something, or who knows what. But they knew what it was. People knew what it was at that time, and that was obviously connected to it. Now, it did not receive its mark on their forehead or their hand. Well, there's a lot of information about Nero and what kind of markings was going on in the stores to pay homage. I've heard theories of them doing, like, he made an homage of ash and they had to take the ash and put it on their
Mm-hmm.
hand and then touch their forehead. And that was like a thing that they did, which, by the way, we see in Ash Wednesday, a reenactment of what the actual mark of the beast was from Rome. You see that at the Roman Catholic Church doing Ash Wednesday. Or you see the same dot in Hinduism where they put the little red dot in there for it. That's, again, another reenactment of the mark of the beast that they don't know about. Okay, guys? They don't know. They're unaware if that's what they're actually doing. But yeah, that's literally what it comes from. And so it comes from this. Had to not receive their mark in the forehead of their hand, and they came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. So these people that avoided this mark while becoming Christians, that were getting their heads chopped off, they stood up for the message of Christ. The word of Christ spread all over the world, went to every corner of the earth. It even says it in the Bible. It says that all of Asia heard this message. What verse was that where it says all of Asia?
No, it says
said
in
that-
Colossians 1:23, it's like this gospel that you've heard has been preached to every creature under heaven.
Yeah, it said that as well. Yeah, every creature under heaven.
Yeah. Yeah, Paul
So-
might mention that all of Asia has heard this message.
Yeah.
I do think it's interesting, and I don't really have a great answer for this, but I was wondering why the book of Revelation is only written to 7 churches in, like, what we're told is modern day Turkey. So the 7 churches that were in Asia. So why didn't, like, Philippi, like Colossus, why didn't the church in Corinth get this letter too?
Because they
I
were
wonder
killed,
if those
probably.
places were already getting pretty trashed by then.
Yeah, they're probably killed, all of them.
Right? Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. Because, like, why would it be just written to them? You know, because again, Paul had letters to a lot more churches. So why would they just have focused right there? All the 7 churches not being spread out more, because the book of Revelation is indicating a worldwide judgment.
Yeah. That I would agree. So that, I mean, it seems like they probably got wiped out, and they were probably dealing with persecution and all kinds of things was happening.
Yeah, no churches. No, they didn't mention the church in Rome. They don't mention the church, all the ones in Macedonia, like in Galatia. They don't mention any of those churches. But obviously, those were some of the earliest churches. So why aren't they written
Yep.
to warn them?
Makes you wonder. So, and had not received its mark on their forehead or their hand. They came to life and reigned with Christ for 1,000 years. Okay? So this means those Christians that were killed during Nero Caesar's reign and all that chaos that was going on, those ones that survived came to life. They got killed and murdered and persecuted and chopped their heads off and lit on fire, came to life, and for 1,000 years, they were invincible. They probably didn't need bathrooms, okay? They were like some specialized exalted body status. They existed for 1,000 years. They reigned with Christ, okay? And then it says, the rest of the dead did not come to life until the 1,000 years was ended, okay? The rest of the dead. That's us, guys. We're the rest of the dead, or we're the children of the rest of the dead. Like, that's potentially what I think is going on here. Because it says the rest of the dead did not come to life till the 1,000 years was ended. This is the first resurrection. Blessed and holy are the ones who share in the first resurrection. Over such the second death has no power, but they will be priests of God in Christ and will reign with him for 1,000 years. And it doesn't say what happens to him after the 1,000 years other than Satan's released and they go bye-bye. But the rest of the dead get resurrected after the 1,000 years. So something else is happening here. Okay. It says, and when the 1,000 years was ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations. So obviously, there's got to be nations there, and they've got to be in a state of imperfection if they can be deceived. Okay,
Right.
so there was saints that were invincible, that were living alongside humanity for 1,000 years, guiding it, rebuilding it, structuring what was going on, making things function until the 1,000 years was done. And then the 1,000 years was done, and guess what? They poofed. They poofed out, and Satan showed up. And then there was a resurrection of the rest of the dead, and we call them the orphan trains, and we call them the orphans that showed up out of nowhere. And then they were sent out. They just resurrected out of Cabbage Patch fields, and then they just showed up. And then Cabbage Patch, by the way, cabbage is the word for cherub in Hebrew, and patch is the word for portal. Just a little side note. Cabbage Patch could mean cherub portal or angel portal. So a bunch of children showed up out of angel portals, out of nowhere. We don't know where they came from. And these kids took over, and they didn't know what to do with them. They put them on trains. They didn't know how to handle it. But the thing is, I think when the 1,000-year Christians were reigning over the whole world and brought the world into some homeostasis state of peace and love and unity, and then they poofed out and Satan was released. And the moment Satan was released, religion started. Okay? The first thing he did when he came back into the world is he tried to bring people back under the law. And this is when religion started up again. And it started, Judaism was reformed, and Muslim religion started to be perverted from the whole world, by the way, during that 1,000 years was basically Christian. The entire world became Christian. And this is why Chinese characters are all Christian, Japanese is all Hebrew. This is why every like Hinduism, it's all Christian words in their language. Every culture around the world is all tethered to Christianity in so many different ways. And I explain that on my channel. If you don't know, just watch some of the other videos. I explain how everything is Christian because for 1,000 years, the whole world became Christian. The message of Jesus after he dipped out was so profound. Like people were resurrecting people from the dead. Bro, the message was going out like wildfire. Within 40 years of Jesus dying, the entire world knew who Jesus was within 40 years, in my opinion. Like the entire world, I think, knew. And that's why Jesus came back in 70 AD. And when he came back, there was destruction of the temple, destruction of everything, destruction of the entire world. And that was when you see the bones everywhere of all the people of the catacombs, because that was what the catacombs were. It was like the destruction. A third of humanity died. Okay. And the world went into darkness. So 536 AD, that was not actually when it happened, but there was a darkness that came over the entire world. Okay. And they shifted these dates and events in the calendar because the Freemasons tried to manipulate everything. Okay. But there was a darkness where the moon turned blood red and the sun stopped shining. Okay. That happened. That actually happened already, guys. And even today we see the moon. It looks a little yellow in the sky. It used to be white. It used to be a white moon always. Now the moon's kind of yellowish. That's because it used to be, there was a time in 536 supposedly where you can Google where the sun was turned to dark and you could still see the moon. When it lower in the horizon, it turns red. Or when there's a fire out, the moon turns red again. That's because there was a volcanic eruption that happened in 70 AD, which is Pompeii, which is the first volcanic eruption that ever happened that we recorded. Okay, there's others supposedly, but that was the recorded one that we can have. And that was the moment of revelation. And it's quite possible that that volcanic eruption created the darkness of 536 AD, even though they tell you that it happened at 70 AD. There's a lot of misunderstood timelines. What do you want to say, JD?
No, I just think it's interesting. So I think the religion came about sooner than that because, that Geneva Bible was connecting these popes to potentially being the false prophet. So,
Oh yeah,
so
that's
you
true.
kind of have the papal authority around that same time. Kind of makes sense that you have first the Jews reject Jesus, right? And then so they're bringing about wrath on themselves. But then eventually the church becomes apostate too. So there's this falling away that's also taking place at the end. So it kind of makes sense that they are kind of, there's always been the devils infiltrated the church right away to try to steer people away before Jesus came back. Because that's why, like, when John is writing to those churches, they have kind of fallen away. Like, only two churches really don't get any kind of, like, repent or else. So these other churches had. So maybe they've followed into these kind of doctrines of devils that has come about.
Yeah,
But I
it's
do think
interesting.
I think it's interesting to consider for the people who are on the fence. It's almost like the most simple kind of concept is that if you read your Bible in its entirety and you see the character of God when God has sent his prophets and warned them about something, if you don't repent, X is going to happen. Judgment's happening. So then you have the story, and once you can see it, it's impossible to unsee it. That Jesus, first by John the Baptist, is saying, "Who warns you of the wrath to come?"
Mm-hmm.
And then Jesus is there to save people, not condemn them, in his earthly ministry. He's giving the opportunity for them to be saved, and that's what the apostles are doing. They're being saved from what? From the wrath that's to come. Obviously,
Mm-hmm.
the salvation includes eternal life and being saved from the second death. But it's kind of like the really kind of the ticking clock of the gospel is wrath is coming. So obviously, the prophecies were about Jesus's people rejecting him, and then because they did, and obviously we don't have to go into the parables today, but they were going to be judged based on that. So then you think about what happened afterwards. Historically, even what we're taught in the church is that the Romans end up persecuting the church too.
Mm.
So where do you guys see in the Bible that God would not have stepped in at some point? You know what I'm saying? Like, because Jesus is the sign of Jonah. And so Jonah gave Nineveh 40 days. If they didn't repent in 40 days, then everything was going to be turned to ashes in that city. But instead, they put on sackcloth and ashes, and then that judgment was stayed. Eventually, Nineveh does get judged, but not then. They repented.
Mm.
So thinking about it in the same way that if the Jews did not repent in the times of Jesus, and then the Romans persecuted his church and they didn't repent, well, what would you expect to happen biblically? You'd expect
You expect them to get judged.
them to get judged, and then there's evidence of it worldwide that the Roman
Mm-hmm.
Empire did get buried under the ground. So I think that's pretty compelling to me. That's evidence that it happened, and I say it's within God's characters. It's not within God's character to send prophets to warn people of judgment coming, them not repenting and not getting judged. But what we're told is
Mm-hmm.
that, well, again, what happened to Israel when they killed God's prophets?
They got some kind of judgment
They got
right
an
then.
army came in and destroyed
Yeah.
them.
Yeah.
So you're telling me that all of Jesus's
Mm-hmm.
apostles, except for John, were martyred, crucified, and then God does not step in at some point to judge those wicked people who did that? I think that he did.
Yeah. I agree. Now there's a more interesting part, guys, and we're gonna bring up this part because it's very fascinating, and I want you guys to do some research because honestly, I don't know what this is. Okay, I'm gonna mention something here that's gonna be crazy, and I don't know where this falls in or what this even is. Okay, because it's very fascinating. But the Jews talk about this battle coming. They call it the Battle of Magog. Okay, that's what they call it. Magog. Magog. They'll say this. The rabbis teach you about this Battle of Magog. All right. Now the Battle of Magog is Gog and Magog is mentioned right here at the end of Revelation. So I'm gonna just read it because and I'm gonna show you guys some pictures of Magog. Okay, and it's very very fascinating. All right. So we're in Revelation 27. It says, "And when the 1,000 years are ended, Satan will be released from his prison and will come out to deceive the nations that are in the four corners of the earth, Gog and Magog, to gather them for battle. Their number is like the sand of the sea. They march up over the broad plain of the earth and surround the camp of the saints, that beloved and the beloved city. But fire comes down from heaven and consumes them. And the devil who has deceived them was thrown into the lake of fire and sulfur, where the beast and the false prophet already were. And they will be tormented day and night forever and ever. Okay. I don't know. I think that's coming potentially, but I don't know because, and I'm going to show you why, because I don't know where this is, and I don't know how this fits in, because there's a lot of stuff, guys, so if you guys have figured out where Gog and Magog is, put it in the comments, because I'm still trying, like, we're all trying to figure this out. And I don't think JT, I don't think any of us have got this figured out. I don't think. So this is Gog and Magog. Now I want to
those
point.
are the statues in Londinium.
Yes, in London, right here. There's 2 statues. They have a festival of Gog and Magog. Okay.
Crazy.
And just so you guys know, they have a festival. Gog and Magog, okay, blah blah blah, are a pair of names that appear in the Bible and the Quran, variously ascribed to individuals, tribes, and lands in Ezekiel 38. Okay, so it's also in Ezekiel, also in Revelation, guys. Gog is the individual and Magog his land. Okay, by the time of the New Testament revelation, the Jewish tradition had come to view Ezekiel's Gog and Magog as Gog and Magog. Okay, Gog, from Magog.
Gog from Magog.
Gog from Magog as Gog and Magog. Okay, so there's like a distortion apparently going on here. The Gog prophecy is meant to be fulfilled at the approach of what is called the end of days, but not necessarily the end of the world. Jewish eschatology views Gog and Magog as enemies to be defeated by the Messiah, which would usher in the age of the Messiah. Okay, one view with Christianity is more starkly apocalyptic, making Gog and Magog allies of Satan against Gog at the end of the millennium, as described in the book of Revelation. Okay, so this is really weird. The legend was attached to Gog and Magog by the name of the Roman period that the gates of Alexander were erected by Alexander the Great to replace the tribe. Romanist Jewish historian Josephus knew them as the nation descended from Magog, the Japhites, or the Japhite.
Yeah, probably from the Japheth line.
Yeah, from Japheth's line, which is, okay, this is very fascinating. Descended from Magog as the Japhite, which the Jews today are from the line of Japheth, guys. Okay, they're from the Japhetic line. That they're not from the line of Shem. Okay, they're Ashkenazi. Ashkenaz is the son of Gomer, who's the son of Japheth. So, yes, it's
Brian,
pretty interesting.
Are you trying to say the surrounding of the camp of the saints is by Ashkenazi Jews?
We might get there, but hold on. I guess because it might start looking that way.
You know what? This actually sounds like we're experiencing this right now.
That's exactly what it sounds like is happening. Okay, just that's what I'm starting to get. Like, this is kind of weird. Okay, and explain to them that the Scythians, and explain them to be the Scythians. Okay, which, by the way, the Scythians are a form of man, I wish I could share that other video. Actually, maybe I will. Okay, in the hands of the early Christians writers, they become apocalyptic hordes. Throughout the Middle Ages, they were variously identified as Vikings, Huns, Khazars, Mongols, and
Khazars.
Yeah, the Khazars. Yeah, isn't that fascinating?
Yeah.
Nomads, or even the 10 lost tribes of Israel. Do you see this? Anyways, very fascinating.
That's really interesting. Yeah, because the Khazar Empire Khazar Kingdom is kind of where you get the Ashkenazi connection. Is because these people were not actually Semites. They converted to Judaism so they could lend money at interest.
Mm-hmm.
And those people eventually got displaced, which of course the story of the Jewish people, they've been displaced a lot of times.
Yeah.
They were taking advantage of the people. I think they say the roofs came from like the Norway area, and those are the modern day Russians, and they kicked them out of there. And so then the Ashkenaz settled in a different place all around Europe.
Yeah, yeah, very interesting. The legend of Gog and Magog and the gates were also interpolated into Alexander romances. According to one interpretation, Goth and Magothi, isn't that interesting?
Oh yeah, Gothic
Goth,
Cathedral. Yeah, the
the
Goths.
Gothic cathedrals, isn't
Yeah,
that?
the Goths. Yeah, gosh, yeah, that's interesting. Goth. Yeah, Goth and Gog is not that far apart, is it?
No, it's not. And you start to realize it's called Gothic architecture for a reason. Okay, so this is where it gets really weird. Okay, and the kings of the unclean nations whom Alexander drove through the mountain pass and prevented crossing his new wall. Gog, his new wall. Okay, what wall is he talking about,
The
guys? Do you
Great
know?
Wall of China.
It is that's it's not called the Great Wall of China. It's called the rampart of Gog and Magog, actually. Isn't that fascinating? The rampart of Gog and Magog refers to a legendary wall, most famously the Great Wall of China, built to contain the apocalyptic figures Gog and Magog. Isn't that fascinating? According to legend, the scripture's interpretation, Alexander the Great built this wall with help of his people to protect the civilization from Gog and Magog, who were raiding and ravaging the land. The idea appears in Jewish, Christian, and Islamic texts and is depicted in various medieval and later artworks. Okay, guys? It's so fascinating. This is such a mind twist.
Even you think about it, the Mongolians is not that far off from Magog.
Yeah, Mongolians. Yes, that's exactly. Yes.
Yeah, they're the Mongols. The
The
Magogs.
Mongols is the Magogs. Like, and so when you start looking into it, you're like, that's the Great Wall of China, which, by the way, the Great Wall of China has its ramparts, okay, pointed inward. It's like,
Yeah,
it's pointed the wrong direction.
It was never China's wall.
No, it wasn't. And so because the arrow parts.
Well, I won't say it was never China's wall. The original intent was probably not for China.
No, and it was like, and we know this because the arrow slots where you shoot the arrows are pointed on the inside. They're pointed towards China. So it's like, okay, well then obviously this is a wall to stop the Chinese people from getting across, not the other way around. Okay, because they didn't want whatever was in China coming at them. Okay, so
Somebody said synagogue.
The synagogue. Yes, I am completely on that page, by the way, bro. And we're getting there. We're getting there.
The
Okay.
synagogues of Satan.
The synagogue. Okay. Okay. Yes. And the key. Okay. All right. Crossing the new wall. Gog and Magog are said to engage in human cannibalism. Okay. Do you hear this? Human cannibal in the Romance and derived literature. They have also been depicted on medieval cosmological maps, a mapping mundi, sometimes alongside Alexander's wall. The conflation of Gog and Magog with the legend of Alexander and the Iron Gates was disseminated through the Near East in the early centuries of Christian and Islamic era. We got to read the Islamic stories about this, guys, because I haven't read them yet. I know there's something in there, and there's probably like a big nugget of truth. Okay, like just like a broken clock's right twice a day. I bet there's something in the Quran that I'm gonna read. It's gonna be very fascinating. Anyways, they appear in the Quran in chapters Al-Kahf and Yaju and Maju. Oh wow, Yaju and Maju. Like again, that sounds like Gog and Magog already to me slightly. Okay. Anyways, primitive and immoral tribes that were separated and buried off by the Du al-Quanarian. Okay, that's interesting. He of the two horns. Interesting. So there's like a dude. I gotta see this. I gotta see what this is. What? Look at this. They're animal-human hybrids. Look at this. Again, Nephilim animal-human hybrids.
Yeah, it reminds me of what
That's
what happens in the 300. It talks about Xerxes went from like the Far East and got all these kind of crazy peoples to help fight in his army.
Yeah, but look, they're built. These animal-human hybrid demon things are building the wall.
The Great
That's
Wall
the
of China,
wall.
it makes no friggin' sense altogether. It's really hard to imagine in Alexander the Great's time if, based on his chronology, if only he only reigned for 12 years.
Yeah,
So if he did, he definitely had some supernatural help to build that wall.
I feel like if I just keep going, there's so much more. Okay, this one, I got to show you this picture. I want you to see. Here's the wall, and these are the Christians, and this is the battle armies of Gog and Magog. But I want you to
Yeah, that's
notice
like the camp of the saints. Yeah, they're trying to.
that's the camp of the saints. And what's with those noses, JT? What is with those noses and
I don't
those
know.
feet?
I don't know. It looks pretty racist to me. Look at the shield.
Are you,
Look at the guy's shield.
dude? Right? The shield has some weird face on it, and you're like, look, these people look normal, but these people have some really big noses, and I just can't get over why they would have such large noses. And this guy's got a face on his stomach. I mean, that's a really weird one. And then there's animal dog-headed people going on over here. And there's a dog-headed man eating the saint right here over the wall. This wall that protects the saints. And there's a dragon over here eating this guy, it looks like. These are the dog-headed people trying to eat the saints. Guys, do you see what is happening here, yo? Do you see
Brian,
what is going on?
did I tell you about it? So I did a podcast with Doc Brown, and we were talking about Prester John.
Oh my gosh. No, you didn't tell me about it.
Oh
but,
yeah.
Oh, you
Prester-
did mention it to me,
yeah,
but
you need to look into the mythologies of Prester John, because supposedly in medieval times, they had these legends of
eating people.
this king who lived in and ruled over what they called the three Indias, and he had a kingdom that had no sin in it, and he had a fountain of youth there. He had a river that had all the kinds of precious jewels. Sinners could not enter his kingdom, but he had griffins there. He had cynocephalies. He had the people with the faces on their torsos and everything all lived there. And so this was out somewhere out east.
this is the little naked animal people in the fields being protected while they're building the wall.
But yeah, Prester
yeah.
John was a Christian king who ruled over 72 other kings.
Interesting.
It's totally bizarre, but yeah, a lot of this tracks.
Okay, well, we're gonna have to look it up. Again, Gog and Magog, the giants. The animal human hybrid giants. The Nephilim, guys. They're Nephilim. Let's just say it what it is. All right, y'all? We know what they are. We talk about this. This is Nephilimology going on here. What is this? Gog and Magog. Looks like they traveled to that little country right there. Huh. Isn't that funny? Isn't that funny? Wonder what this video is. Maybe we'll watch it
The very
later.
weird part about the story in Londinium, though, they set up these statues, and this is why they have this parade for Gog and Magog.
Yeah,
was
they
because
worship them.
They were like the protectors
Heroes.
of the city.
Yeah. This right here in
Yeah.
London. Guys, they have a parade and they worship these two Gog and Magogs as the heroes.
Isn't it
They
kind
are
of
the
funny,
heroes.
the proportions? The
Yeah,
that
they do
they're
look like dwarfs.
They look like, you know what it looks like? You saw Endgame, right? Not Endgame, but Infinity War.
Oh, yeah.
You know
think I saw
when
some of
Thor has to get, Mjolnir gets destroyed and he has to go get that axe. He goes and finds Peter Dinklage, the guy who's the
Yeah.
dwarf, but he's a giant dwarf.
Oh, I don't remember that.
You know what I'm talking about? Like he has to get the thing from the star. Like they
Yeah.
forge it from like a dying
Oh,
star.
I do remember that. I do
yeah,
remember.
and he's
I
like,
did
but he's
remember.
because he's a dwarf in real life, but he's a giant dwarf.
Yeah. You're right.
That's
yeah.
what they look like. They look like giant dwarfs.
You're right. You're absolutely right. But these are the heroes, guys. Which dwarfism, by the way, for those that don't know, is connected to Nephilim genetics. I've had a video talking about that. So very fascinating. These giant dwarfish looking giants with big heads. Very big heads. Okay. Totally not proportioned properly. That's very fascinating. Okay, but these are the heroes, guys. These are the good guys. Right? So Gog and Magog are the heroes of England, which, by the way, I know I say a lot of things about, we talk about the Jews a lot here. And for those who haven't noticed, but they're not really the ones that are in control. Okay. As much as we see them being the bad guys being pointed to, they're not actually the ones that are running the show. Okay? Here's their little march with their Gog and Magog giant statues that they carry through the town. So ridiculous. Look, Gog, Magog. Gog and Magog. I'm sure the Jews know what's up with that. They probably have a better perspective on that, at least. Anyways, the Battle of Gog and Magog. This is a very fascinating subject. I haven't quite strung this one together yet, so just so you guys know, like if I figure it out, if someone figures it out, make a video and put it in this comment and be like, I made the video to explain Gog and Magog to you guys. Make a video and then we'll watch it and share it or whatever and talk about it.
I think the one thing that needs to be said, and I think
mm-hmm.
this is kind of conclusions I've been coming to lately, though, that a lot of things in the Old Testament, again, this is why that God's people did not respect his son or not want him, is because the Old Testament is a shadow of what was to come. The new covenant is a covenant of the Spirit. So when Jesus gets there, he's spiritualizing a lot of things they thought were going to be absolutely literal and physical.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's important to get, at least have an open mind with this. If you believe we're in the little season, we're heading toward a Gog Magog. I think it is important to maybe recognize that it might not be exactly like you think it's going to be, because that's why they missed the kingdom when it was there, and the kingdom was taken from God's, well, whether they were always chosen or whether they were always going to get the kingdom or not. I think there's a lot of indications that they weren't. Actually, it's funny. I was telling Josh that I'd read through the Epistle of Barnabas, and a lot of people reject that because you know what he says, Brian, that when Moses went up to Mount Sinai and he was receiving the law from God, God was using his finger to write on these tablets. And so before he was all the way done, he said, you know what they're doing down there? They're worshiping a golden calf. So Moses comes down there and he smashes those tablets.
Mm-hmm.
I think that what it says in the book Gospel of Barnabas was like that they rejected the commandments right then. And so what is God going to do? He's going to destroy all of them. But they were spared, but they were still not given that covenant. They were not able to, they were given a different law after that, and it was the law of transgression. It was the stumbling block. So they rejected God's law right away. I don't know. It's just interesting to think. But anyway, yeah, the point being is that these people do not see what Jesus is trying to explain to them about the spirit of this new covenant and how it all is in faith. And it kind of makes sense in the way that we don't really know where we are, but we believe God. We just don't know exactly all the details. Yeah. So it kind of makes sense that with the little season makes more sense with that kind of understanding of like walking in faith.
Yeah, because I don't know if we're before Magog and Magog. I don't know if we're after Gog and Magog. I don't know if we're in Gog and Magog. I don't know. I have no clue. Like, I just haven't been able to figure it out yet. I mean, there's so many things that you start reading and you're like, what is this? Like, what is this talking about? And there's things that we see and we're just like, this doesn't make any sense. Why doesn't this make sense? We don't know. We don't know why it doesn't make sense. Like, there's no... If you read,
like I said, if you read in, like, if John is talking about the prophecy that's in Ezekiel 38 and 39, if you want to take it absolutely literally, it's really hard to take it literally because you're talking about like horses and riders and stuff like that. You're talking about like things that we don't deal with today. It's like the same way when people talk about, so we must be in the book of Revelation now and still premillennial because the river Euphrates is drying up. But the whole point of the river drying up is so kings can cross it. So that was a limitation at some point. It's not a limitation anymore. Yeah. So do you think, do you really think Gog Magog's going to be horses and cavalry and all that stuff? I mean, I don't.
Seems silly.
So, I mean, sometimes it does make me think like that Ezekiel 38, 39 stuff maybe already happened.
Yeah. Yep.
Not saying we're not heading to something similar, but maybe that we are heading toward a spiritual surrounding, kind of like the idea what we were talking about, the kind of the infiltration around the world, and we don't even know we're being surrounded. I mean, some of us are kind of waking up that we are like surrounded in this matrix. Is that what it's talking about?
I have no clue. That's, and I'm humble enough to admit that I don't know. Because like the people that say that they know, like I don't know, man. Like there's no way you know. There's no way you know. There, I watched a pastor the other day. He said something. He was like, "Oh, I know. Oh, I know where we're at. I know the revelation's coming. I know that this is happening." And he was like saying some stuff, talking all whatever that I saw, and somebody sent it to me. And you know what? One point I'm gonna give the revelations coming people 1 point here. Okay, ready? They're 1 point. He said that, in Daniel it says they built a statue, right? And the statue gave, or was it in Daniel where they gave the statue life to speak, right? Or wait,
Well, no, the Nebuchadnezzar built a
not, yeah,
statue
that's
that people were
different.
gonna have to bow down to. Yeah.
No, the one is that's in Revelation, and where it says they had this statue, and the
Well,
statue
it
was
says
given the
that
ability to speak.
there's
The
an
image.
image, and the false prophet gives it breath and the ability to
Yes.
speak.
So the guy was like talking like, well, what's an image? He goes, the image is a computer. And he's like, and they gave it the ability to speak. That's AI. And I was like, it's a good point. It does seem, I'm like, man,
An image could
like
be a lot of things, though.
The image could be a lot of things, but I was like, oh, that's a fascinating. I'm like,
Graven
okay,
images,
cool, whatever.
graven images, idols. Even Jesus, when he's given the denarius, right? He says, whose image is this?
Yeah, true. Yep.
He shows whose image it is. So he's talking about like the money.
Yeah. I mean, it could mean so many different things, guys. I mean, like, and then I've heard other people be like, oh, one of my our friends, Matt, told me, he was like, well, what if the mark of the beast is actually your phone? Because when you use your phone, you see the light on your hand and it shines on your forehead. I think it was Matt that was telling me somebody like that. It was like, it's the mark of the beast is on your hand and your forehead when you hold your phone in your hand. And I was like, it's also an interesting sort of thought there. But that's about the only 2 points I've ever seen for.
I see. I don't think that the mark of the beast would have been like a complete deception at the time.
No, I don't think it would be either.
Like that you got tricked. Oh well, I mean, it's a phone I talk on. I didn't know I was swearing loyalty to Satan when I got this.
Yeah.
So if it's like God's not going to condemn people who didn't know what they were doing.
No,
I think
no,
that's
I
why
don't. I agree too.
at a component of worshiping, and that's why the idea that Nero had some kind of a ritual ceremony before you had to come into the gate of this town to engage in commerce. Because a Christian would know I can't worship the emperor and say he's a god. And based on this mark that was put on you, on your hand or your forehead, everyone knew what you did. That makes more sense than being tricked through pharmakia or any other kind of possible way through technology.
Yeah, I totally agree. And by the way, can you list old world buildings and locations? People in the comments, if you guys can get to his comment, make that a comment on the
can
on
you
the
list
video, not in the live chat.
Buildings and
make it a comment on the video, not in the chat, and then people can write their places that they know of.
They're everywhere.
They're everywhere. That's why people can just comment, be like, in my town, this.
Yeah, I would encourage you to do this. What I do now before I go anywhere, I look, if I'm going to this town, I'll say
buildings before
historic
built.
Old buildings.
Yeah.
And pretty much every town has at least something.
Yeah.
If they weren't all destroyed, probably.
Yeah, there's not. Yeah, they definitely get a lot destroyed. So
there's too many to list, though. There's too many to list. You gotta narrow it down. Where do you want to go?
Yeah, just put that right in the comments, and people in their towns can be like, I've got one in my building, or here's a bunch that I know of.
Courthouses, look for courthouses.
Libraries, courthouses.
Libraries, post offices.
Schools,
yeah, potentially.
Old schools.
Anything that, I mean, if you're anywhere near a state capitol building, that's a great place to look, because not
post
only
office.
will you see the state capitol building, but you will definitely see stuff around there. That's the thing. Typically, when you find one, you get hit about 10 with a rock, depending on what city you're in. You know what I'm saying? Because they're all in the same place. Most of them.
Hold on 1 second. Did someone just walk through my door? Oh, no. Okay. All right. Yeah. So anyways, guys, if you guys want, come on, write some comments in there and help people find more cool places. I don't know. Maybe we should build like a network. We should build like a.
Yeah, well, you know what? I want to say John Levi had a app that you could check, but there's a again, you don't need anyone to hold your hand to do it because I'd say that you can just basically throw a dart at a map and then look up old buildings in that town, and then they probably have some. Oh, by the way, maybe we should put a shout out. I'm actually coming out to see Brian here this next week, so I might be in La La Land, the city of angels, to
Mm-hmm.
see some maybe ancient angels, or
Yep.
maybe some old world buildings, maybe some underground LA, the
Yeah,
actor bond.
we'll take him to the tunnels.
Take me to see the reptilians, Brian.
Yep, I'll take you to the tunnels, bro. It's gonna be great. It'll be fun. Anyways, I think that's it. I don't know if we really went over everything that we could go over. It was kind of a hodgepodge. This subject is too big, honestly. But hopefully that gives you some sort of consensus. This is sort of part two with the previous video, I guess, and maybe it gives you some consensus of where we're at. I think maybe like we have no clue, but the Lord is good, and you just got to keep loving people. I will tell you, the where you're supposed to be right now, though, regardless of where we're at, where you're supposed to be is loving your friends and family and your neighbors. That's where you're supposed to be. And like, you're supposed to love everyone around you. And as a Christian, you're supposed to be somebody that basically exuberates love and compassion for everyone. Like, there's a lot of times people don't want, they're like, Christians get caught up in this idea of judgment and be like, oh, that's wrong. And I'm not going to do that, or I'm going to do this or whatever. Bro, you're missing it if you're going to be having that view. Like, you just need to love people. We need to love everybody. So that's what I think is the most important thing in our sort of world today.
Well, you think about the whole idea is to seek first the kingdom of God. Like, that's not a call to go look for the camp of the saints.
No.
That's like you're seeking this kingdom that's of heaven. Again, and that's why people need to like really recognize that. Like, that's the more important part about all the things we go into. It really is about seeking first the kingdom. So what does that mean? It means you're storing your treasures up in heaven. That's what your goal is. So how do you do that? By denying yourself and putting others before you.
Yep.
That's how you seek first the kingdom of God. So I think that the kingdom ultimately is an eternal kingdom of heaven, and that's where we all want to get to.
Yes, exactly. So just love people, love your neighbors, love your friend. Be a good example to your family around you. And if you guys are doing stuff, even with Thanksgiving going on, and if it's like pushing people away, just be like, whatever. Be like, just love people. Just kind of let it go. Speak the truth and just be like, okay, I'm gonna love everybody. Anyways, I think that's all we've got for today. So I hope you guys all have a wonderful rest of your weekend. And until next time, the next video we're going to be talking about more demons. I'm going to teach you guys more about how to cast demons out. It's Demons Bro, yes.
Demons Bro.
T-shirt. Yeah.
Yep.
We're wearing each other's shirts.
Yeah, there we go. All right, God bless y'all.
All right. See you.